There was a time when anyone would tremble upon hearing the name of John D. Rockefeller. Not only was he the world's first billionaire, but he was honestly one of the richest people in history. His empire, Standard Oil, became the most dominant monopoly in the world, brutally crushing competitors, taking control over multiple industries, bribing the government, and treating business like a war. Because of his ruthless business practices and secretive deals, Rockefeller made many enemies. His career is filled with bitter rivalries like Andrew Carnegie and even ferocious battles against U.S. presidents. But before he was the titan of the oil industry, Rockefeller was at the bottom of society. His story is one of only a handful of cases where someone manages to rise from the depths of poverty to the absolute peak of wealth and power. Rockefeller's story is at times inspiring and at times chilling. It's really an example of what happens when greed and ambition go completely unchecked. So, let me take you back to 1839, where young John D. Rockefeller is born in poverty. John Davison Rockefeller was born on July 8, 1839, in a small wooden house in New York. His father was a con artist who sold fake miracle cures and disappeared for months, leaving the family broke. His mother Eliza struggled to feed 6 children with no money. They moved constantly, always running from debt collectors. Young John learned that money meant survival. He watched his mother count pennies just to buy bread. At age 7, he started raising turkeys and selling them for profit. By 12, he had saved $50 in a small blue bowl, a fortune for a poor kid. The family moved to Cleveland when John was 14. He dropped out of high school because he knew school wouldn't make him rich fast enough. At 16, he walked Cleveland's streets for weeks, knocking on doors, begging for any job. Finally, an accounting firm hired him for $3.50 per week. John worked obsessively. He arrived early, stayed late, and learned everything about business. He saved every penny, eating the same cheap lunch daily and walking everywhere. By 18, he had saved $800, enough to start his own business. In 1859, he formed Clark and Rockefeller, selling farm products. The business made $4,000 in its first year. 1859 changed everything. Oil was discovered in Pennsylvania, starting America's first oil boom. While others saw opportunity, Rockefeller saw total control. Oil prices swung wildly from $10 a barrel to 10 cents. Most people focused on drilling wells, but Rockefeller studied the entire business chain. He realized the real money wasn't in finding oil, it was in refining it. In 1863, he invested $4,000 in his first oil refinery in Cleveland. He chose Cleveland strategically because it had railroad connections to oil fields in major cities. Rockefeller bought out his partner for $72,500, borrowing heavily to do it. Now he controlled the refinery completely. He studied every aspect of oil refining, extracting more products from each barrel than anyone else. His refineries produced kerosene for lamps, lubricating oil, and petroleum jelly. Nothing was wasted. By 1865, his refinery was Cleveland's largest. But being the biggest in one city wasn't enough for Rockefeller. He wanted to control America's entire oil industry. In 1870, Rockefeller founded Standard Oil Company with $1 million. His goal was simple: destroy all competition. What followed was the most ruthless business campaign in American history. Rockefeller's first weapon was secret railroad deals. He negotiated massive shipping discounts, but the deals went further. Railroads paid him rebates on his competitors' shipments too. This meant Rockefeller profited every time a competitor shipped oil. When competitors couldn't match his prices, he used predatory pricing. He'd sell oil below cost in specific markets, bankrupting local competitors. Once they were destroyed, he'd buy their refineries for almost nothing. The Cleveland Massacre of 1872 showed his true ruthlessness. In 6 weeks, he forced 22 of Cleveland's 26 oil refineries to sell to him. He gave owners a simple choice: sell to Standard Oil or be destroyed by it. Those who refused faced coordinated attacks. Rockefeller cut off their railroad access, stole their customers, and spread rumors about their finances. Banks refused them loans. By 1879, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's oil refining. But controlling refining wasn't enough. Rockefeller wanted everything: oil wells, pipelines, transportation, and retail stores. He bought thousands of tank cars and built pipeline networks across states. He created company-owned distributors who sold only Standard Oil products. The Standard Oil Trust, formed back in 1882, was really Rockefeller's masterpiece. It controlled 41 companies, all while keeping up this appearance of independence. Honestly, Rockefeller had created the world's first global corporation with operations on every continent. His empire employed over 100,000 people and controlled assets worth hundreds of millions. Standard Oil kerosene lit lamps in remote villages all around the world. The company's blue barrels became these iconic symbols of American industrial power. But Rockefeller's need for control didn't stop at business. It extended right into politics. Standard Oil employed armies of lobbyists who drafted favorable legislation and blocked any bills that threatened their interests. The company made really strategic political donations. Supporters got funding, while opponents faced well-funded challengers. Whenever journalists tried to investigate Standard Oil, they faced lawsuits and intimidation. Newspapers lost advertising revenue. Publishers found their businesses under attack. Rockefeller controlled information just as carefully as he controlled oil. By the 1890s, Rockefeller was America's most powerful private citizen. His wealth exceeded that of entire nations. Standard Oil's revenues were actually larger than the federal government's budget. At its peak, his personal fortune was worth over $400 billion in today's money. But power made enemies. In 1902, journalist Ida Tarbell exposed Rockefeller's ruthless tactics in the history of Standard Oil Company. Americans learned about secret deals, predatory pricing, and destroyed businesses. The exposé triggered this massive public backlash. Rockefeller became America's most hated man. Cartoons started depicting him as an octopus strangling the economy. President Theodore Roosevelt made breaking up Standard Oil his top priority. The legal pressure was, pretty intense. There were congressional hearings, court battles, and a $29 million fine, the largest in American history. Rockefeller's reputation was just destroyed. Protesters even burned him in effigy. His name became totally synonymous with corporate greed. The stress really took a toll on his health. He lost his hair and developed digestive problems. The man who once controlled America's economy became its most reviled figure. In 1911, the Supreme Court ordered Standard Oil's breakup into 34 separate companies, including Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron. Ironically, this actually made Rockefeller even richer as individual stock prices soared. Facing public hatred, Rockefeller launched a massive philanthropy campaign. He hired experts to help rehabilitate his image through systematic giving. The Rockefeller Foundation, established in 1913 with $100 million, focused on health, education, and research. He revolutionized medical education, funding Johns Hopkins and other medical schools. His money helped establish modern medicine in America. He funded hospitals and research facilities all over the world. Rockefeller's education philanthropy was equally impressive. He gave millions to universities, especially historically black colleges. The General Education Board improved public education across America, funding teacher training and school construction. He also funded scientific research, including early genetics work. His money helped establish the University of Chicago as a world-class institution. John D. Rockefeller died in 1937 at age 97, having given away over $500 million, more than $8 billion today. He witnessed America's transformation from an agricultural nation to an industrial superpower, a change he really helped create. Rockefeller's legacy is, pretty contradictory. He was a visionary who built the world's first global corporation and revolutionized industry. His innovations became standard business practice. But he was also a ruthless monopolist who destroyed competitors and exploited workers. His business practices led to antitrust laws that still govern American business. He showed both capitalism's potential and its dangers. His philanthropy created lasting institutions that continue benefiting society: the Rockefeller Foundation, University of Chicago, and so many others. Rockefeller proved that in America, anyone could rise from poverty to unimaginable wealth. But he also demonstrated why that power must be regulated to protect democracy and free enterprise. His story remains relevant as we face modern tech billionaires and global corporations. The questions his career raised about monopoly power, corporate responsibility, and government's role continue shaping economic policy today. John D. Rockefeller was the world's first billionaire who left behind more than just money. He left a legacy that continues influencing how we think about wealth, power, and responsibility. His name will forever represent both the promise and peril of American capitalism, a poor farm boy who changed the world and showed us what happens when ambition goes completely unchecked.